Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another review from Fanboys Forever. And today we're going to be having a look at the third figure that I've reviewed in the Wave 3 of the Turtles of Grayskull line, and that's Teela. This is definitely a figure that I did not expect that we would get, and I was quite surprised when I saw the initial listings. Teela is not a figure that I would even very much consider as one that would probably get released in some kind of crossover like this. Mattel has opted to do their own thing, and we'll get into the story reasons for that in just a moment. But before we begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, because that really helps us out. And remember, we've already been reviewing several of these from this wave, so definitely go back and check those out before or after you watch this one. Either way, let's begin. All right, so looking at Teela here, there's so many interesting things about this figure. One thing that I find interesting is kind of like what they did with her father, Man-at-Arms. This just represents a cool version of the character and not necessarily some kind of, turtle crossover beyond wearing some turtle-inspired armor. It's almost like you could have put this in the main Origins line and just said that it was some kind of original design of Teela and have gotten away with it just fine. She does kind of take cues from how they handled the Beastman figure from last wave, because underneath this is just her standard Teela buck body that we see all the time. The only big difference is that you probably couldn't use this for a standard Teela for reasons that we'll show you in just a minute, but still, it just has coverings over it to make it really seem like a brand new figure. The head sculpt is pretty much in line with what we've seen so far. It's a little more animated looking than most of the Teelas we get, but honestly, I would say that this is one of their better painted Teela faces and sculpted Teela faces. It's almost a shame that it's so covered up by this helmet. You really have to, kind of do that low angle to get a good look at it. It's painted very straight and it's very appealing. I just think it's a lovely version. I'm also really impressed by their color choices that they did for her. I really love the turquoise that they have all around. It is appropriately turtle-y without going too crazy. It's, green enough to make you think, oh yeah, the turtles. And I really like that kind of gold yellow that they have. I especially like that they did straight up gold down here with the belt buckle and the chains on the loincloth piece. And they even did like a pearlescent white down here with the fur. And up here it almost feels like flocking, but it's just really, kind of intricate grooves in the sculpting for this fur piece up here. A lot like the turtles, she does have a removable shell piece, which I think is neat, and of course that can come right off and can be used as a shield. And she has the same connectors in the back that the other figures do. You can also see that she has these cool gauntlets. Now, I'm really impressed that they went the extra mile on this, because what they did was they have these like brown wraps where Teela has actually put on blades herself and made these kind of new gauntlets so that she could survive on Eternia. So there's a cool storyline reason for this armor that the back of the packaging kind of alludes to as well. The idea is that Teela is kind of left alone to fight a lot of the villains in Eternia when a lot of the heroes go missing and start getting mutated. And that's why she has to put on this heavier armor right here and does all these upgrades. So I think that's really terrific. Beyond just the design, the helmet does not come off, so that's kind of a shame. I would have loved to have just seen the standard Teela head that they'd cooked up underneath this, but as it stands, yeah, that helmet's on there for sure. All right, so let's definitely have a good look at what's underneath a lot of the armor pieces. You can just take the helmet off there. Of course, the armor just has one of those clasps. All right, once you have everything off, this is what it looks like. And I actually kind of dig this a little bit. It kind of has a, 1940s, 1950s pulp space woman vibe. It's almost like something you would have seen in illustration for Flash Gordon or John Carter of Mars, something like that. I sort of love it. It's kind of retro-y space, yeah. Like I said, I would have been a lot happier if we could have removed the helmet, but I still think this is a really neat kind of look. Definitely looks like a galactic kind of adventurous space girl. I really enjoy the aesthetic. Speaking of the helmet, something I really hadn't talked about before is how it's a blend of two motifs. You can see that it has kind of the bird beak right there. Of course, that's usually, Teela is always between snake motif and bird motif. And it also has the turtle motif with the shell. So I think that's a really unlikely pairing that they actually get to work pretty well. I also really like the silver and the white. I think that's a good combination. It is kind of funny that none of the chest details are painted here, and kind of funny that her back is white because it's usually bare. Sculpt-wise, the body is exactly the same as the more 2000X inspired Teela figure that they did. That was a pack-in with Zor. So I think that this looks pretty cool. Now the good part though is that you can see that there's a real big kinship between the two head sculpts here. I do prefer the more anime-ish paint over here over the more basic paint over here, but let's switch the heads. It works fairly well, I think. The skin tones aren't exact or anything, but if you did want her in this bodysuit, I think that this would probably be close enough. I think the more interesting swap is this one, because the yellow kind of brings out more of the detail in the helmet. And you could also, use all of these pieces as well, and I think that would look nice. And here it is. Those extra pops of color actually make a little bit of a fun difference. It's a little distracting, I guess, to the overall armor motif that they have going, but it's still kind of fun to see it that way. Not necessarily something I prefer over the standard version, but it's kind of neat. I like how you can see the yellow on the breastplate right there, especially had it been the same shade of gold as this. I think that would have enhanced the figure, but yeah, it looks pretty cool this way as well. And it also looks pretty fun when you use the turtle shell as a shield. And here she is wearing the turtle shell on the back in this different configuration. And if you really want to, you can use that new Filmation Teela head to pop onto that body, and I actually think this looks pretty cool for whatever reason. And it looks especially nice when you put it on this. For some reason, I think it really brings out the rest of it. So if you want to do this, I think this could look awesome in your display. In terms of a weapon, she has one, and that's another giant sai, which is what Raphael came with. And it's really funny because it's almost like they were saying, oh, if you buy Teela, you get Raphael's other sai, which is a really funny way to do it. It's kind of a shame that they didn't take the time to come up with something that was a little bit more her own instead of just giving her another one of Raphael's sais. But still, I think it looks good with the character, and if you never knew that it was just another one of Raphael's sais, you would probably not really put that together too much. I mean, it just looks like a big weapon that she's wielding. So I think maybe the one thing I would have liked to have seen would have been Teela's snake staff. I think that would have been cool to have seen that upgraded. Or maybe just done in this turquoise green. And here's Teela with Man-at-Arms. And because the sorceress has no specialized look in this version, you can simply just use your Origins sorceress. There they are, proud parents. And these guys look really cool together. So I definitely think that, this will probably be one of those figures that some people might think, well, I don't necessarily need a special version of Teela for this because it's not exactly the most, turtle-specific crossover thing. But if you're like me and you're an even bigger Masters fan than you are a Turtles fan, it'll be like, oh yeah, wow, that's an awesome-looking new Teela. I have to have that. Of course, that's just the way that I think. So there's always, room for another Teela on my shelf. However, like I said, for some people that won't be as big of a deal. I think it'd be a shame to leave this one on the peg though, because it's so cool. There's so many intricate sculpting things going on with the armor, and I love the paint applications that they've done. It really does feel very premium, and it feels like they went the extra mile on the paint and things. My biggest complaint is that you can't take the helmet off, and I don't think it would have been that difficult to have had the helmet come off. I really like how the head sculpt looks though the way it is, so I definitely understand them not wanting to mess with success right there. But at the same time, it is kind of a shame because I think this would have been a terrific new Teela head sculpt. But for what it's trying to do, I think it serves its purpose extremely well. And although I can't necessarily suggest it to the folks that are just getting this for the Turtles homages or Turtles references, I can wholeheartedly suggest it to the Masters of the Universe fans like me who definitely want to see the latest version of Teela and snatch this thing up because I think it's pretty cool. And don't forget, friends, we still have one more figure to review, and that is the Casey Jones, so be on the lookout for it. And be sure to subscribe and comment down below. And as always, God bless you and yours. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever, Fanboy out.